Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome to the ThePackHub's latest packaging innovation webinar. My name is Paul Jenkins, Managing Director of UK Packaging Innovation Consultancy, ThePackHub. As always, I'm joined by my colleague Barrington Pamplin, Technical Director of ThePackHub, who will be chairing the questions and answers towards the end of the session. And delighted to be also joined by Simon Lewis, who's Vice President of Marketing at Highcon. Simon has a wealth of experience in the digital print packaging space, and his company Highcon develops, sells and supports digital cutting and creasing systems for folding carton and corrugated carton manufacturers. The Highcon technology is providing cost-effective solutions to the market trends of e-commerce, shorter time to market, lower production runs, and a drive to sustainability. So really looking forward to Simon's presentation in about 20 minutes or so. So what we'll cover over the next, just under the next hour, very familiar format to the regulars amongst us here. So we'll do a very short introduction about the ThePackHub and our Innovation Zone packaging database. We decided to focus on box packaging innovations today, and we've got a number of innovations that are represented in our 9 global packaging trend areas. So we'll have section 1, and then we'll have Simon's presentation, Reinventing the Making of the Box. We'll then switch back into looking at some more box innovations. Then we'll have details of our next event. So please get your questions in. There is a panel with a Q&A section for you to ask any questions. You will also get a link to the webinar recording post-event, and all our webinars are available to view once again at youtube.com/ThePackHub. And if you subscribe, then you'll get notified every time we upload a video. So the ThePackHub, we are a leading packaging innovation consultancy, 4 main areas of service: project management and technical support, webinars and events. Obviously, the latter has been beyond us for the last 15 months or so for obvious reasons, but we're looking forward in 2022 to getting back to face-to-face events. We do reports. Our latest is on the global packaging trends. We've also done reports on sustainable packaging and refillable and reusable packaging, etc. And last but not least is our Innovation Zone packaging database. We've just counted 4,894 packaging initiatives uploaded 20 a week. We have innovations from around the world. We find innovations in 15 different languages, from concept to in-market launch. So we're tracking things that are being tested and developed at sort of university stages, right through to what you might see on a supermarket shelf or on an online e-commerce page. So good opportunity to keep you and your team up to speed and inspire and come up with those good ideas. So these are the Innovation Zone members that currently benefit from access to the database. I mentioned the Global Packaging Trends report, that's available now. What this report allows me to do in the next sort of 5 minutes is just to, before we talk about the box innovations, is to briefly go through the 9 packaging trend innovations to give you a context as to what is going on in the market. And as I said, these box examples wrap around these 9 innovations. So the first one is naturally done. So this is about biodegradable, compostable and bio-based examples. We're continuing to track a lot of examples in that area, challenges around cost and recycling infrastructure and lots of different challenges there, but we are reflecting, we are acknowledging it and seeing lots of innovations in that space. Everyday engagement, so this is about interacting and engaging with consumers, often with smart and intelligent solutions such as RFID and NFC, but not exclusively so. An opportunity for brands and retailers to have a dialogue with consumers through packaging. Online, the online surge, the growth of e-commerce, I say this every time, it has been significant, particularly over the last 18 months or so since the COVID-19 pandemic really hit us. Obviously, lots of people switching from local store visits to buying directly online through their mobile computer or tablet screens. Some had never used online before, and some will not go back. So inevitably, even after the COVID is gone, or good has gone, we will still see a high propensity of demand for online purchases. So that is reflected in some of the innovations that we're tracking, and obviously relevant for the work that Highcon do as well. Making life easy. So this is about packaging that adds added functionality. So things like easy open and resealability and things like that are examples that we're spotting. Material change. So this is about moving out of one material into another. A lot of the time at the moment it's moving, switching from plastic into other paper-based alternatives, but that isn't exclusively so. In fact, we posted yesterday about a glass water bottle from Slovenia, I think, that's switching into recycled PET. So it isn't all plastic into other materials, but that is the majority. Protect and preserve. This is all about packaging that does that, protect and preserve products. So I think I say this every time, but widely reported statements about up to 50% of all food produced globally is never eaten. There's lots of reasons for that, but clearly packaging can play a big role to reduce those eye-wateringly high percentages. So we track innovations in that area. Getting noticed. So this is about shelf impact really, and also in the hand as well as on supermarket shelves. A pack's first impression can be the difference between success and failure. And again, Highcon sort of play in this space with some of their excellent digital examples, which we will hear a bit more about in a moment. Penultimate one is refill revolution. We've tracked a lot of reusable and refillable packaging examples over the last 18 months or so. It inspired us to actually write a report about it because it was that significant. Mainly dry food, household and personal care sectors are the ones that are making the most ground, but we're seeing change in a lot of sectors. A lot of in-store market, in-store retail chains are testing the water with sort of 3 or 4 outlets, but that's beginning to increase as well. And last but not least is recycling resurgence, which is all about recycling. So this is about increased recycled content and improving recyclability of packaging. Now we've got packaging taxes coming in the UK's April next year, which puts a levy on plastic packaging with less than 30% recycled content. We've got plastic packs, which are encouraging 100% recycled content by 2025. So this is clearly having a big effect on the types of initiatives that we are seeing. And I would imagine something like 30% of all the innovations that we're tracking have a very strong recycling central focus. Okay, so let's look at some innovations. As always, what I'm about to show you are not an endorsement or examples of best practice necessarily. These are examples of packaging that we've tracked recently and we think are interesting and worthy of comment and for your attention. So without further ado, here are the first few. So for some reason, we seem to be tracking a lot of, we've always tracked lots of bio-based innovations, but we seem to be tracking grass-based sort of initiatives quite a lot at the moment. I'm not sure of the exact reason for that. There's 3 or 4 in the last week alone. I can't think of a good reason why that would suddenly spike, but this is a German paper mill, Meldorf, who are already known for their paper products made from grass, have now launched a board version called Nature Board. The business can now offer a range of boards in various grams from 250 to 550 GSM. The boards are made from a mix of recycled and grass fibers and are certified with the FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council, 100% recycled seal. The addition of a board variant means that customers can achieve the same consistent look with inner cartons and outer corrugated packaging. The grass used by Meldorf is not cultivated specifically for packaging use, so it doesn't infiltrate the food chain, and the raw material is obtained from unfertilized grassland, which does not impact grass feed or for cattle. One major advantage over conventional paper and board production is that grass requires much less water during processing, therefore reducing CO2 emissions. The company says that the board is suitable for all common and conventional board uses. So there we go for that pack. Next up is a German university who have developed a bioplastic with many of the attributes of polystyrene, but made from popcorn waste. I think this is the first example of popcorn being used as a biomaterial in the innovation zone. The researchers at the University of Göttingen were so pleased with the resulting material that they have subsequently patented the process, and they've entered into an exclusivity agreement with German cereal manufacturer Norder Trader for them to manufacture and sell products made from the new material. The material is comprised of cooked and popped corn, processing waste from cereal production. The waste is then processed so that it has a granular appearance. Then, using similar technologies to those used for processing polystyrene and other plastics, it becomes malleable and can be formed into suitable shapes. The resulting product is water resistant and can be used several times, apparently. Being completely natural, once it reaches the end of its useful life, it will apparently biodegrade completely without leaving any residues. A Polish distillery, Podlaska, which produces the Chopin vodka brand, have collaborated with Metzeboard to produce a board pack for its organic vodka. Using Metzeboard's natural WKL bright white craft liner, Prosky and Metzeboard have created an all-white litho-laminated construction that, due to locking flaps, requires no adhesive. The pack has a feature that allows the pack to be opened and closed numerous times while locking the bottle in place. Along with low migration inks and water-based varnish, this means that the packaging is visually striking while also being easy to recycle. The distillery's aim was that the packaging would reflect the organic nature and purity of the vodka. So I just think that's a nice alternative pack format for the vodka market. Now, sustainability is clearly a big area of activity, and this is a good example of that in action. So Kellogg's have announced that they are reduce the size of some of their cereal boxes in a move that will reduce plastic and board use by an estimated 191 tonnes per annum. The new pack sizes will have less airspace and packaging, but contain the same amount of cereal as previous packs. The rollout will start at its UK Manchester and North Wales manufacturing sites later this year. It is reported that the move to the smaller packs, along with increased efficiency in the supply chain, will reduce the company's carbon footprint for this by 10%. Kellogg's 10-year Wellbeing Manifesto focuses on improving their sustainability and social responsibility. Interesting, this initiative, I think a few years ago, this may have been initiated without communicating high visibility to consumers what's going on. So clearly the footprint on supermarket shelves is less, and this box may actually be smaller than competitive products for the same size. So obviously Kellogg's are keen to ensure that is communicated to consumers what is going on, but we're going to be seeing much more of this in the future. Next up is Italian packaging manufacturer, machinery manufacturer ACMA, and they've launched a patented box filling solution called the Eco Shell. It has a unique appearance, giving excellent shelf standout, and it also has a dosage system built into the top of the pack with a closure that is reported to be both practical and hygienic. The design is reported also to be very flexible, meaning that the size and shape can be amended depending on brand owner requirements. This flexibility makes it ideal for brands aiming to increase brand awareness and on-shelf differentiation. The design of the EcoShell meets the requirements for the food and pharmaceutical markets, being ease of use, portability, and having sustainability credentials. Illinois-based flexible company Scholler IPN have collaborated with Georgia Pacific to come up with 3 patent-pending SIOC, so that's ships in own container, bag in box solutions. The designs have successfully passed Amazon's demanding ISTA 6 process, and SIOC, so ships in own container, is becoming much more of a significant consideration. Amazon, as it continues to grow, is putting increasing demands on their suppliers to reduce the amount of packaging in their supply chain. So packaging that can be sent out in its own container without additional secondary packaging is being preferred. The three designs comprise of a consumer-friendly tap, one with an industrial tap feature, and one with a pour-out style option. The pack volumes range from 2 to 23 litres, but it is, just as I say, very much in line with what Amazon are now pushing to have within their business. Distribution efficiencies are said to be substantial, with CO2 footprint reductions of up to 67% and total energy savings in the region of 75%. And last up, before we hear from Simon, is Icelandic packaging company Coolwall, not to be confused with Wall Cool, which are another business that supply wall-based packaging. Coolwall have created a sustainable alternative to EPS, expanded polystyrene containers, that are the predominant packaging option for transporting chilled salmon and other fish species. The zero waste solution comprises of a board liner and a board outer layer coated with a moisture barrier. A layer of Icelandic sheet wool is then sandwiched between the two board layers. The board layers are recyclable, as is the wool layer, apparently. The wool is either discarded from farms or regenerated wool from the textile industry. In trials, the prototype container has been proven to give the same performance as EPS boxes over a 72-hour period. So that's quite an interesting innovation, using sheep's wool as an insulation material. Okay, so now we're going to hear from Simon. I'm going to stop sharing. Simon, if you could, oh, he was already there, fantastic, and make sure your microphone is on. As I mentioned, Simon, absolute digital print packaging expert, working now with Highcon, and I'm not going to steal his thunder with any more of my ramblings. I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself and tell us all about Highcon and what they do. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Paul, and good afternoon, everybody. If there's anybody on this call from the other side of the Atlantic, good morning to you. It's a pleasure to be here. Paul has given you a little bit of a hint about me, but I think there's one sentence that perhaps captures most of what I've done in my career, and that's analog to digital transformation. In 1994, I worked at Cutouts, and I was working with digital proofing, replacing match prints or chromoliths with a digital proof, and direct to plate, direct to press. And then I was at HP Indigo, a digital print. And the truth is that we're reaching the final frontier, and to be part of the final frontier of the analog to digital transformation in kind of the graphic production world is finished. And today I want to share with you some thoughts about reinventing the making of a box. Because yes, I'll talk a little bit about Highcon at the beginning and the end, but actually it's not about one vendor or one step in the process or one technology. It's about actually what you can do when you take an entire process and reinvent it. And the power of reinvention and the opportunity when you reinvent something that is basically unchanged for decades is immense. So let's embark on the journey. And I start the journey by focusing in on the Highcon vision for just a moment. We're all about digital cutting and digital creasing, which together enable two key things that we call out in our vision, which are agile production and design creativity. And I'll come back to those at the end of my session. But I want to start just from the basics, which is that we see in the picture a classic way of making a die with a hammer and fingers and hand tools to place the knives in the right place on the board of the die. And the new, in this case, is our 3D printing system for digitally writing the mechanical creasing rules that combine with laser die cutting to deliver digital finish. And this is about delivering a different value proposition to get the same outcome. And I don't want to talk about Highcon for now because I really believe that that's a detail. And I'll come back to the detail at the end. I want to focus on the cycle the way it's been done, and the cycle the way it can be done. So we're going to go straight into the real content. So what does it look like when I want to turn an idea into a box? Perhaps I skipped one sentence before that I should catch up. It's great to be in this piece of the world, paper-based packaging, because packaging is so important. It's so important not just to protect the product, but to communicate the product. And whilst I recognize the enormity of the trend that Paul was just talking about with Amazon, nevertheless, after COVID, and we're beginning to exit, some places more than others. I'm in one of the exiting countries. I'm very blessed. People want to go back to the store. They don't just want to buy online. And the package is part of that moment of truth on the shelf. So packaging matters. Boxes matter. And making the box effective, functionally, and in terms of the communication is really important. So I have an idea, I have a product I need to box. What happens? So in the current process, the first step is the structural design. And the structural design is basically to make sure that I've got a box that before it looks beautiful, before I've worried about the production, I know that it meets the functional need around the product. And typically what happens is I'm going to get a mock-up, a sample. It's white or brown or whatever, because it's hopefully using the material that I plan to use, but it's not looking like a package. It's a structural design. And in the real world, it's often in the range of 20 to 30 days. We talk regularly with brands, and one brand manager from a major brand says that he can often wait around 6 weeks to get the first mock-up. 6 weeks. Moving on, you then have to go to proofing that structural design, which don't get confused with proofing graphics. This is making sure that I can take that approved sample and turn it into something that I'm going to be able to produce. So I make some samples with a development die cut tool. I may iterate a few times to get what I want. I may run some focus groups or market testing so that the consumer can open the box and say that he or she likes the way that happens or doesn't like the way that happens, and make sure that it's going to work from that perspective. And if we're talking about a mass product, then often we may want a bunch of samples to take down to the filling line, the packing line, because if it's going to be automated, you may want to test the folded glue, you may want to test the finishing line, the filling line, because if you are an FMCG with volume products, you need, that's all part of the proofing cycle. And that proofing cycle after the structural design can again be in the 1 to 2 months, 20 to 50 days timeline. And again, a brand manager from a major brand says the first batch for proofing can take around 10 weeks. And we need to understand that that first batch doesn't mean it's the finished product, because there can be feedback from the manufacturing guys, from the consumers, and so on. That's why we see multiple development die cut tools here, because there's an iterative process. But when we finally get through these processes that can be, as we can see here, 40 to 80 days, and we feel we're being conservative, we're not trying to show you a border case, we're trying to show you a typical story. You've now got a product concept that now needs graphic design. The graphic design can be days or longer. We just saw those special K boxes. That's a classic example of how you're downsizing a package. You're taking the same basic graphic design, the same basic package. You're downsizing it. You still wanted to have done these tests that we talked about. Now you're going to wrap some existing graphics and resize them and add the message about this is a smaller box with the same weight and all those other things to try and communicate the message. And at some point, we'll sign off on that as well. I'm not counting the time for graphic design because that's not about the box, that's about graphics. I'd have talked about that in my previous life when I was focusing on printing, and printing is about what you're printing. After that, you now go into the production process. And you can say in classic terms, you've got a sheet layout process. This is okay, how do we take our graphic design, think about the production considerations, the way the color flows, how I need to make sure I'm going to get good quality print, make use of the sheet, the size of the sheet, determine what press to run it on, make sure that I've got plates, prepare my production die cut tool to maximize, choose the material size that I'm going to use in the light of everything, and the printing press, and all those other things. And that can be pretty short, or it can be up to 20 days, so in the 3 to 20 days thing. And then you go into printing and finishing. And printing doesn't take 10 days, and finishing doesn't take 10 days, but the cycle does. Because when you go and say, I want 10,000 sheets with 4 up on the sheet, so that's 40,000 boxes, you don't have the packaging producer sitting there twiddling his thumbs, waiting for the order in order to say, okay, yes, I'll put it on press this afternoon and we'll have it tomorrow. That's not the way the real world works, because these machines want to be scheduled in advance. And they want to order in the material only after you've finalized the design, and they don't want it sitting around waiting too long, and all these other things. So it can easily take another 10 days for the printing and another 10 days for the finishing. Look how much work in progress sits between the printing press and the finishing process. And at that end, we've got boxes that are ready to go and be shipped to wherever they're going to be used. There may be folded glue here, it may be at the packaging line, but as far as I'm concerned, we've completed the current process. And what we're looking at here is 60 to 120 days typically. Although I say that with an asterisk. I recently saw a report by ESCO, and they say a more normal time is more like 180 days. So maybe we're even being generous. Now, I've actually got 2 very interesting neighbors. One of my neighbors is a brand manager in an FMCG company. And her brand is a high volume brand. And when I think about what she needs in her large company with its structured processes and its packaging engineers and its production engineers and its graphic designers and its brand police and its marketing departments and so on, this really describes what she goes through every time she wants to make a change, even if she only wants to do what Kellogg's did to that special K box. It takes an inordinately long time. And she's comfortable, and traditionally her company was comfortable with this. Although what they discovered during the last 15 months of the pandemic is that sometimes this just isn't good enough. Things change, circumstances change. You suddenly find that people are buying differently. You need a different form or function. You need a different size package, because now people are not going in and picking up stuff regularly in used size portions from the supermarket. When they do a shop, whether it's online or from the physical store, they equip themselves for 2 weeks or a month because they don't want to go back and see people and risk exposing themselves. And suddenly they need to work differently. How are they going to work differently? So that's one of my neighbors. The other neighbor is an artisan. He actually does pottery and ceramic work that he sells both through his website that has become much more important and through, kind of souvenir shops at tourist attractions not so far from our town. And he needs boxes to put those products in, and maybe he didn't need them so badly when people were picking them off the store in the tourist shop. But those tourist shops have been closed for a frighteningly long time. And he depended on his web business, and he depended on the package to protect his product and to be part of the experience of the buyer when it arrived, that it wasn't just an anonymous, unmarked box, which it might have been when it was came after the customer picked the product off the shelf in that souvenir shop, and the sales assistant put it in this unmarked box to take home safely. Now he has to have his brand, he has to have his website, he has to promote himself, and it's all changed. But he couldn't afford 60 to 120 days, and he couldn't afford all these processes that are designed for mass-produced products with large minimum order quantities and a lot of stuff on the shelves and inventory in the warehouse he doesn't have, and a dye tool and all kind of, and the processes, he couldn't handle it. And it's for him, we need to say, okay, how do we reinvent this development cycle? And you see here in green what a digital end-to-end production cycle looks like. And you can add up the days, we'll talk about it at the end, but let's talk about what changes. Structural design is essentially the same, but it's much more streamlined because you can't afford it. If you're going to do everything else quickly, you need to work fast. So structural design, yes, you still mock up that box and you get something that works and you do it quickly, but you do it with a mindset that says, I'm in a project which needs to get me a package at the end of the month or so. Sample making looks different, and it looks different for the most basic reason. Given that we're talking structural sample, and given that we're going to end up with digital finishing on a Highcon, yes, this is I am, making a pitch here as well. I'm not just talking conceptually. You can make the sample on the same piece of equipment that is going to do the manufacturing. It's not, this is how I'm doing the sample, and then I have to scale it up and make a new tool and da. It's all the same. And Highcon even has this nice new feature that for our customers, we work on what we call a price per job basis. And a job is a production job. So you, as a converter, can produce up to 20 sheets as a sample for your customer. And if it's 4 up on those sheets, that's 80 boxes to play with. And we don't charge a penny for that. We don't charge the customer for the consumables. It's free because we want to enable this new kind of proofing cycle on the production equipment. Using the production die cut tool, you still get samples, but if you want a limited number of samples, it's free. And for my friend who is the artisan, those boxes are more than good enough. For my neighbor who is the brand manager at the FMCG, that may not be enough to just get 80 boxes. Or it may be, if the opening mechanism is the same, it's just a scaled down box like the Special K, or scaled up because we put 20% more for the same price or whatever it is. So far, we've changed the structural design of the proofing to be more streamlined from 40 to 80 to something more akin to 10 to 30. And we're not doing the samples for the proofing on different equipment, we're doing it on the same equipment. We then got graphic design that doesn't change. Once you go to sheet layout, ladies and gentlemen, that's when the digital revolution gets exciting, because there is no such thing. It's all digital, it's all virtual, there are no plates because we're going to digitally print this job because, hey, digital printing is perfect for shorter run jobs, for faster turnaround jobs. Quality is great, whether it's cartoned or corrugated, whether it's toner or inkjet, it doesn't matter. But we're talking about end to end, and the truth is, even the graphic design, we're skipping it. But the quality of 3D visualization of the package with color and texture and with light from different angles and so on means that everything from the graphic design is digital. The job is submitted digitally, it's created digitally, the layout is done digitally, the printing is digital, the finishing is digital, and the timelines are much shorter because one of the big differences, as we said, is not the question of how long it takes to print, it's how long you plan the capacity ahead of time. And a digital press doesn't get planned the same way as a litho press or one of those large corrugated flexo units. Printing is done within hours or a couple of days. One of the best known names in e-commerce for print has a 2-hour time between receipt of a digital job and having that printed, finished job sitting on the shipping dock. Now, it's true, they're highly optimized for this. You can't order whatever you want and so on. But the concept that you can submit a job over the internet and it goes through printing, finishing, packaging, pooling with whatever other pieces were in the order, and all of that meets on the shipping dock within 2 hours is just mind-blowing. And we can do something much closer to that than the original way of doing things if we print digitally and if we finish digitally. And although obviously you need to print and then finish in series, some of the earlier steps can be done in parallel. Again, reinventing digitizing isn't just about what it can do, it's about changing the mindset. If you are an FMCG who wants all those different people I talked about before, the package and structural engineer and the production engineer and the brand police and the marketing and the this one and the that one to all review everything, it's going to take a lot longer. But if you are agile, like Highcon seeks to be, and you want to move faster, that digital end-to-end is a reinvention, and we can see it, and we'll see it in a moment. But we also add some other benefits. We can do decorative cutouts that are remarkable and are beautiful and are easy. Those decorative cutouts on a conventional die are an absolute pain in the neck. Getting the die to do them well, getting the die to be good, the tool to be good, and then getting it to run well, and getting all those pieces to be stripped. It's a nightmare. We can do that so easy. We can etch. So you want to put some variable data, you want to number the boxes, you want to do something, you want to simplify and flood coat the print and then etch away the varnish so that you can put glue there. All kinds of things you can do. We can do that using our lasers. Last minute changes are easy because there is nothing. There are no plates. There is no physical die that was made days in advance. And we can do some pretty remarkable things with optimized opening mechanisms. And without wishing to, in any sense, relate specifically to the special K that we saw from Paul, I do know that as a consumer, I've struggled endlessly with zippers on cereal boxes, and we can solve that there. So you take all of that and you say, okay, what does that mean? Traditionally, this took 60 to 120 days. We're telling you now we can do it in 17 to 37. I tend to think it's more towards the lower end than the upper end. I don't want to talk again about the ESCO's 180 something days. But for both my friends, my brand manager friend who wants to get around the constraints, and for my artisan friend who doesn't want large volumes and can't store them and doesn't want to pay the cost of a die and pay for all these things, he needs to do it on a low budget, but he still wants and has a right to high quality packaging. This is the answer for him. A digital end-to-end workflow that enables him to get what he wants. And between those two polarities of the artisan and the high volume brand from the FMCG, there's a whole world of different scenarios, and a load of them are suited to the green tabs rather than the gray ones. And all of that means you can save time, and time is money. It gets you to market faster. It's altogether better. A couple of pictures to visualize for you, and I'm coming to the end. Here are some examples of things we've done in corrugated. And here are some examples of things we've done in folding carton. You can see some of the nice cuts there with the example of that special edition of the Kit Kat box on the top line. And on the top left, you've got some example of our zipper mechanisms, also some blister cards and other exciting things. And what is it that we do? Just to be clear, we make machinery that does digital converting, which is folding and cutting for folding carton and corrugated packaging and display. We talk about agile production, and it means speed, it means flexibility, it means creativity. All those are things that are important. And sometimes going through that long, careful process may be more important. But I'm quite so certain that in the audience out there today, There are people who could benefit from these things both by receiving them from their vendors and in the converter community who want to offer them. And I have to tell you, I started in digital prepress. I moved to digital print. But when we come to packaging more than anywhere else, it doesn't make sense without going to the final frontier and digitally finishing the job, because that's the way you really give meaning to the power of the digital revolution. And I so believe in that. And we believe in that. And our customers are seeing it. And we have an amazing, relatively new customer in the United States who does web to pack, so takes orders over the internet. And his ability, since he's adopted our technology, to handle more jobs per day and finish small volume jobs in large numbers is quite remarkable. So I think I've probably run out of time. So I'm going to thank you for your attention. And I'm going to hand back to Paul.
Thank you, Simon. Your passion is something to behold. I'm really looking forward to getting the questions over to you in about 10 minutes once I've done the second part. Fun and games with screen sharing. Right, hopefully you can see my screen. So, okay, let's look at some more innovations before we do the Q&A. VP is a French retailer that specializes in selling heavily discounted goods via online flash sales and has announced a new concept for selling products in damaged packaging called The Survivors. The aim is to sell products that, because of damaged packaging, would usually be destroyed. The products are quality assessed to ensure that there are no issues with the contents. VP are planning to have several survivor sales a year with reductions of up to 75% compared to normal prices. And that's quite an indication for how valuable packaging is in terms of presenting products in a professional and premium way. That's one of the few examples we've tracked in that area. Next up is UK-based Bluebird's Revenge, male grooming brand that has launched a zero waste shampoo bar, and it comes in a recyclable board carton. And is the equivalent of 2 plastic bottles of liquid shampoo. The bars come in 3 varieties. The bars are part of an ongoing commitment to reduce packaging footprint by improving recyclability and decreasing the amount of waste. Their plastic tubes have now been replaced with recyclable aluminium, and their best-selling pre-shaved beard oil bottle is now available in a 100% recycled plastic bottle. So they're achieving sustainability across different materials there. South African paper producer Sappi have collaborated with German form fill and seal manufacturer Revima to bring to market an alternative to plastic-based bag solutions. Using Sappi Guard Nature MS, they have produced a sealable barrier paper alternative for a cereal manufacturer who produce flour, bread mixes, muesli, and oatmeal. After initial trials, they chose a substrate in 80 GSM as it had the ideal sealing characteristics as well as excellent stability and malleability. Mogulo have collaborated with Graphic Packaging International to create a new feature-rich pack for their plant-based alternative to butter. The packaging has many smart features, including a hinge lid, friction closure, and pull-down front section for easy access to the contents. This strong innovation generates no compromise to sustainability, though. The grease-resistant board is apparently free from standard plastic layers. This means that the packaging is widely recycled within the paper stream in the UK. Meal kits, we've reported on a number of innovations in this area as this market has grown significantly in line with the e-commerce trend over the last sort of 18 months or so. But they do have a worrying sustainability environmental footprint. So these businesses are working hard to reduce and improve that. So HelloFresh, which I think is the largest of the type in the world, in the US have moved to 100% post-consumer recycled corrugated packaging for its pre-portioned ingredient boxes. The packaging was created with the help of Pratt Industries, and it is reported that the more sustainable solution will save the equivalent of 115,000 trees, nearly 218 million litres of water, and reduce CO2 emissions by nearly 7,000 tonnes per annum. They're also using smaller boxes, which, due to increasing the volumes that trucks are able to carry, making them more efficient as well. Two more before we hit the Q&As. If you've followed the innovation, the ThePackHub and Innovation Zone, you will have noted a big change in a switch from beverage multi-pack collations from plastic into paper-based solutions, and this is another example to show you. So this is Australia Dam, and they've collaborated again with Graphic Packaging International to replace all of its plastic shrink film packaging on their multi-pack cans with a recyclable board alternative. The unique pack design was created internally by GPI and features round corners, which is hoped will give the pack a greater standout in store. The move will save the equivalent of 99 tonnes of plastic per annum, and is part of Australia's ambition to move to more to what they see as more sustainable packaging by the end of this year. Design of the pack holds the cans tightly, which protects them as they progress through the supply chain. And last but not least, a light-hearted innovation from Bud Light, who are aiming to encapsulate the excitement of football fans with the European Football Championships Euro starting tomorrow with an unusual and head-turning execution. The sponsorship of the England team involves 3 of their players' heads appearing on Bud Light packs. The project is named Bud Light Box Heads, and it allows the supporters of the England team to wear the players' heads. Bit of a health and safety challenge, but I'm sure I'll buy a pack tomorrow and be supporting England at the weekend with a box on my head. So the easy to execute initiative is sure to create plenty of viral social media coverage for the brand. A little bit of light-hearted humour to end the series. Okay, Barry, over to you. Have you got any questions for Simon, please?
Yeah, we got a few questions. The first one from myself, Simon, is this sort of technology is gradually maturing. Where do you see the business? What sort of size of business and opportunity you see the sweet spot for this type of digital processing and activity?
Oh, so Barry, I see this as being huge. I don't want to put a number on it. I believe that we're seeing that COVID accelerated the trend towards smaller batches, faster turnaround, greater flexibility, more responsiveness. And these are all the places where the Highcon technology fits. We're also seeing a much greater uptake of digital printing. And as I say, it doesn't make sense to print digitally and turn that job, get the job on and off the machine within 24 hours. We then spend 3, 4, 5, 6 days sitting in front of the die. So I see that that brands of different sizes and converters are having different conversations. And I think that we'll see these spaces as being very fast and healthy growing over the next 2 to 3 years. It's not that COVID has taken us to somewhere unexpected. As we've said in so many areas, COVID has compressed time and squeezed 3 or 4 years into the last 15 months.
Is there any particular sectors that are sort of adopting these processes quicker than others within the market?
So I would say less about, as it were, verticals or segments, and more about the way they work. It's the web to pack. It's the people who are who actually say, we are behaving differently. Just as I can, I'm going to order my package over the internet. That if I'm going with a known physical design and I've got my own graphic design, I can put it together and I can order it by e-commerce, and I want it digital and I want it fast. And the growth of the web to pack is startling.
With the growth in this digital market, do you see any requirements changing from the customer? I don't mean the consumer, I mean the customers buying the packaging. Do you see there needs to be investing in skills within their own organization, or is that something that the digital packaging companies should just take on a limited amount of information from the client and have the resources to do themselves? Or do you think that the customers should be investing in people who are more digital savvy and in that area?
So I'll divide that answer into two based on my two neighbors. I think that the people in the companies that have scale in terms of number of products, packages, and so on, need to have those skills in-house, because they're not going to get the service level they want with the diversity that they have if they're depending on converters, human resources for consulting. On the other hand, the smaller players typically have simpler demands, and therefore they can probably rely much more on the converter, who will be giving them semi-packaged solutions, as it were. They're not going to allow an infinite range of materials, but they're going to be able to give them enough guidelines for it to work well without having special knowledge.
Okay. A more specific question now. What's the average sort of waste, trim waste, that you're seeing with this form of production compared with, say, conventional production of corrugated?
So the answer is, it's pretty similar. We have a maximum sheet size on the machine and a minimum, but you can choose, you don't have to work with a fixed sheet size. Obviously, we have a gripper. Because we feed portrait, we grip on the side, we're gripping on the long edge, which is the same edge that the gripper is found in the typical production process. We're not taking more space. We do have 15 millimeters of the gripper zone, but beyond that, you can cut it as fine as you want in terms of the planning. There is no requirement for trim other than for the grip.
Once again, a specific question. What opportunities are there for getting hold of digital print within the Indian market?
Within the Indian market. So the Indian market is one I don't know terribly well. There is some digital printing and packaging there. I do know that, certainly in labels, less so in packaging, but I'm aware that there is some digital folding carton and some digital flexible packaging in India. I don't want to pitch any vendor or anything else, but you will be able to find it out if you look there. Highcon does not have a customer in India, and right now Highcon, as a young company with limited resources, is not active in India or the rest of the Asian marketplace. I hope that within the next 2 years we will be, but we're establishing ourselves fully in Europe and North America.
Okay. One for you, Paul. Someone's asked whether there will be a video recording of this session available at the end.
Absolutely, yes, it'll be available to everyone that's registered, which will be sent out tomorrow via our YouTube platform.
Okay. I've just seen one more question come in. I think it's similar to the question I asked about the sweet spot. Is someone's asked, where is the volume cap? If you're launching a new product, at what sort of point do you see a switch over from digital to, say, more traditional methods?
Okay, so obviously it depends on a bunch of considerations. Typically, there are very few runs done at our customers of more than 5,000 sheets on the Highcon. That doesn't mean there can't be, but effectively, I think that looking at 5,000 sheets is representing, to a very significant extent, the upper limit. And then it's a function of the number of ups. If it's something large, that tells you that maybe there's a 1 up, that's 5,000 boxes. If it's 8 up, that's already 20,000, 40,000 boxes.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it in terms of questions, Paul, probably also in terms of time.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. And thank you, everybody, for your attention and attendance today. It's much appreciated. As has been mentioned, you will receive a link to view the webinar in full tomorrow morning, as you've registered. We'll have Simon's contact details on there as well, so you'll be able to contact him directly. We hope you can join us for our next webinar, which is on Thursday, the 1st of July, at the same time of the day, 3 p.m. BST, where we'll be covering sustainable packaging innovations. Thank you and stay safe, and see you again next time.
Thanks very much. Thanks for hosting me.